Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. My name is Louis Mendes. This is the big match preview on this evening's show. We will be, of course, looking ahead to Saturday's home game with Swansea City at the Valley. Joining me to look ahead to that clash with the Swans. First up, top right, is Mr. Joe Puddyfoot. How you doing, Joe?
Yeah, very good. A bit discombobulated because Emma's just mentioned putting in some holiday plans in May, and I suddenly realised it was going to be over the playoff dates, and a little bit of me wanted to protect those dates. So we have done it on the outlandish assumption that maybe dreams will come true, but it just makes me feel very peculiar, if I'm absolutely honest.
Yeah, well, just tell her that North London is very nice that time of the year. So make sure you book something in the borough of Brent. You know, a couple of weeks away in northwest London. Glorious time of year. Also, bottom right is Lewis Cat. How you doing, Lou?
Yeah, I'm really good, mate. Thank you. Just egging Joe to not make the same mistake I did last season and book a holiday in May when it's not looking like you're going to make the playoffs. Then you don't just make them, you win them. So if I can give you any advice, Joe, blank out May. Don't do it.
Yeah, I forgot you did that. That was an absolute disgrace. Also, bottom left there is Tom William. How you doing, Tom? What's your holiday plans this summer? And presumably,
yeah. I hope this was never going to come up, but my sister gets married on playoff final day in Mallorca. So, yeah, I'm not there, whether we like it or not. So I'm not going to say I want us to lose the odd game, but when we keep winning, I just think, can we not just chuck one or two? So, yeah, for me, selfishly, 8th, 9th, that would be fine. And, yeah, whatever you all think, I'd take that over a Wembley trip that I'm not at. So, yeah, we'll go up next year. That'll be fine.
That is an absolute joke. What you should have done is planned your holidays around the dates of the World Cup, because that won't concern you. So that would have been the best thing to do. So anyway, on today's show, as I said, we're going to look ahead to the Swansea game. Still going on with that same joke that I've been making for nearly a month now.
I did think when it was Swansea and it was a Welsh opposition, that's what I was prepared for in the intro. So
I haven't even got started on that yet. So on today's show, we will look ahead to the game with Swansea. We're going to hear from Nathan Jones on a couple of things, really, because Terry asked him to look at the sort of the start to the season as a whole earlier on today. So maybe we can discuss that. We're going to hear from Luke from the Swans Cast podcast, who's going to tell us a little bit about how they've been getting on so far this campaign. And as I said, we'll hear from Nathan on the actual game itself. We want to hear from you guys. Let us know your thoughts ahead of Saturday. Also got a really contentious subject to talk about towards the end of the pod as well. Thanks to Tom's idea that maybe we could touch upon what would appear to be a light show coming up next week. Which I'm sure we can turn into a mountain out of a molehill sort of situation. So let us know your thoughts on that as well. But yeah, email us studio@charltonlive.co.uk. You can tweet us at Charlton Live, or the best thing to do is to head into the live chat where Mike Salmon is the first one to have done that this evening. So it's good to be back at home for these next two games, Saturday and Tuesday. Going to be tough against Swansea. They're a solid team. We're going to have to be the 12th man. Hopefully their game against Man City in the Cup last night might have used up some of their energy, and we will be fresh this week. So yeah, let us know your thoughts ahead of Saturday. As I said, best place to do it is in the live chat in there and on YouTube. Let us know your thoughts ahead of the game with Swansea. Joe, it is a good chance for us to continue the form that we've been on this game against the Swansea side, who right bang slap in the middle of mid-table, not like us who are floating in and around the playoff places for anyone who's looking at their holiday plans for next year. But yeah, what are you expecting on Saturday? Home form, very, very good from us.
Yeah, I caught up with the Substack earlier, and Rich Corley painted Swansea in a very depressing light, that they have a lot of the ball but don't ever manage to do anything with it. So that fills me with confidence, really, because a team that plays them around at the back with the ball and struggles to sort of progress it is the kind of team that we like playing against with our pressing style. And we are in good form at the minute. I think you've got to be confident going into pretty much any game other than maybe Coventry. As far as I'm concerned, we can probably just skip over that one and move on to the next. But we've got a side coming to us that aren't necessarily pulling up any trees. It's at home. We've done very, very well away from home. Some of us, Louis, thought it was a better week than others, but we just need to capitalize on that, really, and keep that momentum up. And if we can trap them in nice and early and nick a couple of goals, they're not a team that scores many. So it could be a very good afternoon for us. But it's like being a Charlton fan. You get all excited and your hopes come up, and then sometimes they get dashed. So I'm just hoping it's not one of those days.
Yeah, talking to people getting a bit too excited. Again, I mean, this doesn't help that it's throwing up the weird usernames on YouTube. But Seven says, "Is this the best looking lineup we've ever had on Charlton Live?" I mean, we'll take the compliment. Mark's in the chat and didn't take the compliment because he's not on the screen today. I mean, he only would have made it better, of course. But yeah, Joe was speaking about our home form. So we have been so strong at home since Nathan Jones has come in. I think I mentioned after the last home game we had, which was, of course, the 2-1 win against Sheffield Wednesday, that of our 35 home league games, that excludes, obviously, cup and playoff games, Lewis, 35 home league games under Nathan Jones, we've lost 3, which is an absolute joke. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that as home form. Obviously won our last 2 at home. The only defeat we've had this season at home was a game we should have won comfortably. The Millwall game we really should have won. So realistically, if you count in the Stevenage Cup game as well, we could comfortably be sitting here on 6 wins out of 6 at home this season. And I mean, that's why we're getting another 20,000 plus crowd as well. Like the feel-good factor around the Valley, it counts for something, and it counts for a lot. And it is partly because, well, it's wholly because we're playing so well at home. Like we are a force to be reckoned with at Fortress Valley, and Swansea will not be looking forward to it on Saturday.
Not at all. I don't think anyone will fancy it at the moment. I mean, we've been, as you say, so impressive at home for such a long time under Nathan. It was really difficult at stages last season when maybe in terms of league position and stuff, it wasn't quite there, and the attendances were a little lower than they are now, a lot lower than they are now. And I feel like there was always that shift. And for me, it was around, like, in terms of fan momentum, it was around that Orient game and the Huddersfield home game last season. And all of a sudden, you just started seeing people coming back in numbers. And I do really feel that, especially in the recent end of that stat, that a lot of it is because the club just feels really together in a good place and a position it's not been in for such a long time. It feels like there's that real togetherness between the squad, between Nathan, the supporters. Everything seems to just feel really good at the Valley at the moment. They've done some work to it. It just feels like a really good place to go watch football again. And the performances have been fantastic. And the step up that we've made has, obviously it's quite early still in the season, right? When none of us are expecting us to be where we are come May. But the start really that we've made and showing some consistency on it as well, it's been really, really impressive. And the home form was always going to be really important for us this year in our sort of push to survive in the division. And we've taken it that step further. Look, I just think that it's been so great, and getting to the Valley every Saturday and getting 20,000 plus every time we go there, it just feels like such a different football club now. And I just feel like that positive momentum is just translating down and onto the players, onto the fans, everything. It all just seems to be moving in a really positive direction, and we're reaping the benefits of that because we've started the season incredibly well. I feel like we play with a bit of a freedom and the expectation not on our shoulders as such. We're just going out there and putting in 100%, which is all you expect from a Nathan Jones team, and we're actually doing that, and it's delivering the results. I always thought we were never going to get a hiding in this division under Nathan, and we've come into it, and we've not just, I think he said many a time, we're not just here to like make up the numbers. We're here to compete, and we really have competed. And I'm really, really happy with how things are going, and the home form has been so critical.
Yeah, I mean, Liam says, I remember pre-Nathan Jones, we had every team turning up at the Valley and expecting to get something from the game. I mean, let's just pick a League One team at random, Tom, but bloody Burton Albion, they'd come and get points off us at home, and it shows how far we've come. I legitimately, I'm going into Saturday's game against Swansea, a club that I've actually admired. You remember back in the day, they used to play some really spectacular football. Under was it Rodgers at his time, maybe there? But they used to play. They were sort of one of those clubs for a while that you're like, wow, they play some really nice stuff. But I'm going into Saturday. I think I fully expect us to win on Saturday, which is obviously sets yourself up for disappointment. But really, that's where that's where this side have taken us now. We can go into home games and think we got a very good chance of winning this one.
But I think the difference is you're not basing that on like blind optimism or just being a fan or anything like that. You're basing that on stats and proof. Like people are saying in the chat, we have lost a league game this season, but we should have won that one. And I think I can't think of a game that we've deserved to lose at home for a long, long time. So yes, we might lose on Saturday. But I'd be surprised about is if we do a show on Sunday and we come back saying we deserve to lose and we were the worst team. And we're 10, 11 games into the season now. And like people are saying in the chat, I've not seen a single team that I've thought, God, this championship, that's tough. Like Joe, I think Coventry might well be that team based on the 130 odd goals they've scored in their first few games. But apart from that, no one's running away with it. Middlesbrough obviously started the season well. So there are teams that maybe will do that. But so far, we haven't come up against one. And all the hype was around the other two clubs, as we've spoken about a few times. And we've just quietly got on with our job and become a very, very difficult side. I think I said it on Sunday's show. This is what a Nathan Jones side is all about. Hard to beat, defensively solid. Really, he's done the same thing since day one. It was sorting that defence out and then building from that step by step. And he said it would take time. And, I think we're probably slightly ahead of where he expected us to be at this stage. But now we're here and we're competing. And as I say, nobody really is scaring us at the moment. Then why not dream? And if we do lose a few games, fine, so be it. But if not, you don't know what's possible. So I think we have every right to be confident, and I don't think it's an arrogance thing. And as I say, I don't think it's blind optimism. I think it's just proof we're a good side. So yeah, I'm going in with the same feeling as you. And as I say, if we lose and if we get well beaten by a good side, I'm prepared to hold my hands up and go fair enough. But what I don't expect to see is us roll over and just hand someone a win like we've done in recent seasons. So, yeah, so long as we do that, we're going to be fine. And look, ultimate aim was survival, and that still remains, objective one until we've got those points. So, although I don't expect us to go down, that still has to be the priority, obviously. And at the moment, we just look a side a million miles away from even getting sort of dragged into one of those.
Yeah, and Mark says Jones has turned the Valley into a fortress and the crowds came back. I haven't felt this positive about Charlton in a long, long time. Looks shipshape from top to bottom. And as Mark points out, another crowd over 20k. Says he wishes he was there on Saturday, but he will be there on Tuesday. Right, well, what is possible this season? Well, what about the start that we've made this campaign as well? What has that told us? Well, Nathan Jones was asked about that by Terry in the presser earlier on today.
It's been an excellent week, a very good month, and up to now an impressive 12-game start to the league this season. Obviously, it's still early, but where are we in terms of where you wanted us to be or where you planned for us to be?
I look, we didn't set any punch targets this early. What we wanted to do was really go at the league and be really competitive early. Now, we know it's a 46-game season, so whether you start well, whatever it is, you just have to make sure that you are in every game, that you are improving week in, week out, and we feel that we are. We had a good window. We got the people we did. We think we've had probably a fair start. Could we have picked up a few more points? Yeah, I think we should have. But that's what happens over a season. You get points where you quite don't deserve them. You don't get points when you probably deserve them. But I think it all evens itself out. So we're in a decent position. We feel a realistic position, and one that we're enjoying.
And based on what you just said, I know it's not necessarily relevant, but I was looking at the start we made the last time we were in the Championship, and we had an equally excellent start. But then went on a I think 11-game run without we didn't win at all. Do you look back at things like that, and does that act as a sort of warning sign, if you like, for the players to say you can't step off what we're doing at the moment?
Look, I didn't know anything about that. I wasn't here, so I remember being here. I remember losing my Stoke side, losing here in the second game of the season, I think it was. So we don't look at that. What we look at is game in, game out. So taking it to so we look at Saturday, and that's no further than that. We don't look like, are we going to go 11 games without a win? No. Do we think with that? No, I don't think this team does do that. We haven't done that before, and historically that's not in our DNA. So in God's will, we keep it at the levels we've been at, and keep picking up the points as we are.
There we go. That's Tell speaking with Nathan Jones earlier on today. So the point I wanted to speak about a little bit there, Joe, was as Terry referenced there, we made a very good start the last time that we were in the Championship under Bo, but I think it's fair to say it feels very different this time around. Like we were maybe over-reliant a little bit on Lyle Taylor that time. We were capable of conceding goals that season. We had a squad that was sort of, when we tried to build upon what we had and what we came up with from the Championship, we actually lost a fair chunk of that squad. The players that were on loan with us, we had quite late recruitment that season as well. These are all things that building blocks of that season that was very different from this year, that to me meant we were never going to be able to sustain what we had. We nearly stayed up that season in very trying circumstances, but I just think it's a completely different kettle of fish. As Isaac's just said in the chat, completely different side, different club as a whole. I think we just feel so different this time around.
Yeah, and that squad was paper thin. One injury, and all of a sudden you were scrambling around. Our best player was on loan and disappeared in January, which was a real shame for us. And we were running Gallagher into the ground, really. He was really struggling with the amount of minutes that we were requiring him to play, and putting a lot of hopes on some young shoulders. And the other side of it is that this season, we've started the season without our main striker, our best striker in my view, Godden, who's been injured. And he will come back and be a force to be reckoned with. And we know what our striker did that season. He downed tools and went off to big school, and then found himself consistently expelled, and is now in community college. So it's not really worked out for him. But you're looking at the team, the side, the energy, the squad depth, the optimism, the feel around it. It is just a completely different sort of scenario going into this season, and I'd argue that that season, although we went down, if it hadn't been for COVID, I think the fans probably would have got us over the line, and obviously we would have had Taylor until the end of the season. And it's a real unique set of circumstances that caused us to be there. And I just don't see how we're going to unravel in the same way this season. We are so strong at the back. We've got such a strong foundation, and players that are itching for game time that just can't get in the team. And when Godden comes back, you are going to be talking about first team players that are just not able to get in the squad. Whereas we definitely didn't have that last time. Yeah.
And there's so much different about this year. So I feel, I've said it. I mean, I said it that whole City fan who tried to mug us off in the comments on Sunday, saying that we're going to go down. I mean, I honestly, if he was in the room, I would have laughed in his face, because that's just not. I just can't see that happening at all this time around, Lewis. Like I have absolutely zero concerns, unless something absolutely catastrophic happens in terms of an injury pile-up, the likes of which we haven't seen since 2019. But what are we saying this side is capable of this year? Because I think I've come out of this has been a great start sort of thing into this has been a sustained, very good start, and we've got better. Even if you go back just a few weeks ago to when we won at Sheffield United, and we're like, oh, finally we've turned a bit of dominance into a result sort of thing. We're now looking a lot more consistent in terms of getting those results to match the performances. So I am really starting to think, like, how far can we go? How far can we sustain this? And based on what people have said so far, like, I've seen nothing in this division that makes me think, you know what, we've been a flash in the pan so far. In a minute, we're going to play someone a bit better than us. Maybe, like you say, maybe Coventry are the side to beat this season, but we're more than capable of competing with everyone this season, and that does make me think like minimum. I feel like we could comfortably finish in the top half, and then if you're in the top half, then you're not far off ruining everyone's summer holidays, are you?
No, I mean, I agree with you. I think that I feel like the ceiling has become really, really high for us in the last couple of years, and I think a lot of that comes down to Jones, because I just think that he kind of came into us with a bit of a tarnished reputation, maybe with a point to prove, and it feels like we're a football club with a bit of a point to prove as well. And I've always said that we feel like a bit of a match made in heaven, us and him. Like, we're a really passionate fan base. He's a very passionate man, and there's been times where maybe there's been a few clashes. Maybe this time last year, nearly November, isn't it? But like, all in all, he's brought back such a togetherness and a feel-good factor that a lot of people that, you go back and you listen to all these prediction pods and stuff at the start of the season, having us to finish in the bottom three. Those same people now, you go on there and they're the ones that are saying that Charlton's ceiling could be a little bit high here. Like, they could be the surprise package. And a few people think we could potentially do it. And a lot of it comes down to Jones, because I think that people just think he has this point to prove and he's going to go out there and rebuild this reputation. And I do feel like if anyone's going to take us back there, it would be him, just with the momentum that we've got and what he brings. I mean, I'm not going to get ahead of myself, because I don't think we will get there. And I don't think that's a failure. I think that staying in this division was always the aim this year. And we're looking like we're going to massively exceed that. And we're going to, finish much higher. And I agree with you. I don't think there's any reason why we can't finish in the top half. And if we finish in the top half, I'll be over the moon, because this is a fantastic division. And if I never see League One again, it won't be too soon. We are a Championship club minimum, and we do have Premier League ambition. And it's nice to hear, not just Nathan come out of it, but the owners as well, like that they have, they see this as an ambition to get the club back in the Premier League. They want to be Premier League ready in so many elements. And we've seen it in different areas, not just on the pitch, but off it. And like I said earlier on, it feels like we're moving in such a positive direction with such forward momentum that the ceiling for this football club is very high now. And I don't think it would be out of the realms of possibility for us to finish in the top six, whilst it's very unlikely and would be, probably in a bit of dreamland thinking that's going to happen. And we'll look really silly if we're nowhere near it come May. I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility.
Yeah, but I'm definitely feeling top half. Definitely, even if at some point we falter a little bit, like I feel really confident that we can do that. And again, even if we don't, even if we finish 12th, 14th, like 14th, I said I'd be happy with it at the start of the season, but that'd be fine. The doctor says that you can't touch the ceiling. It's plus 3 meters. Obviously, he lives in a big house. Isaac says, other than being impressed by Ipswich for 45 minutes, I don't think we've seen a side better than us, to be honest. And that's fair. I think after the Ipswich game, we all sort of said that first 45, you're thinking, right, we've finally seen something like a team that really whizzed the ball around a bit. And we see what we did to them, didn't we? Charlie says, don't personally think we will be in the playoffs in May, but top 12 is possible. Shine, he says, my oldest son and I were talking about the relegation season the other day, and some of the players we were having to use in the Championship was ridiculous. The likes of Bon, Hemed, and Oztuma. Yeah, I forgot we had Oztuma then as well. Really didn't really hit the heights with us either in performances or stature when he played for us. And Tommy, and this is the point. It says if our strikers are to start scoring, then maybe higher, because there is definitely still more to come as well. That's sort of the exciting bit for me, Tom. Like, there is a little bit more in certain departments that we would get better at, like maybe strikers getting the goals. I know they're bringing things to the side already, but there is still room for improvement. As we saw last season, like the team tends to get better under a Nathan Jones side. I feel like this happened to Luton as well. They end stronger than they start seasons.
Yeah, I think that's right, and it goes back to what Lewis said about us having a pretty high ceiling. I think we've got to a stage now where, look, I appreciate we still got more goals from the strikers, but I think we're seeing week in, week out now what the strikers offer in terms of points. But if we look at the games where we haven't got all 3 points, for example, Bristol City away, we've drawn 0-0, we haven't scored. Leicester at home, the amount of chances we had, if you've got a striker in form, a Matty Godden or a Lyle Taylor from that previous Championship season, I know his name might be mud around here, but you've got someone of that level on that form. They're scoring and we're winning that game. Even at the weekend against Hull, I agreed with you. I thought TC's first chance, he did well to make a save, but there were a couple of other chances there where you think, again, a striker in form probably puts those away. So I'm not going to get overly critical of the strikers because we've had that debate time and time again. But I think the point is that the ceiling of this side is very high. And it only takes a couple of those strikers to start to score one goal every couple of games. And suddenly we've got 5 or 6 more points. And then you're messing with the top 2 or 3 places. So, yeah, look, it's very hard to criticise this side at all because I think where we are now is beyond any of our expectations. But what we've got is a very solid squad and a squad, as you say, that with momentum. Look, we saw Ipswich do it. Okay, their squad was markedly different to ours when they went up from this division. But that momentum you can have that carries you through League One and into this division. I don't know if it is the case that teams just get to the Championship, expect it to be terrifying, and actually it's not that bad. And maybe then you're like, the confidence just makes you want to kick on and kick on again. It might be that. The big test will be the winter period. It always is, because that season we were talking about, okay, the squad was nowhere near as big, but the injuries we got was unprecedented. And then suddenly you're travelling, ironically, to Swansea, for example, on just after New Year's Day, or was it New Year's Day, with a squad made up of kids. Like, I can't see that having to happen this year. We'd have to have a properly bad injury record. And so I think we're better stocked to get through the winter. But there's so many games in such a short space of time. It'll be very interesting to see where we are in January. And as you say, if we're still in that top half, I'll be absolutely delighted. If we're out of the top 6, I'll secretly, personally be even more delighted, because that means I'm still getting to my sister's wedding guilt-free. But yeah, I do think this is a side that's capable, based on what I've seen, of being a top half Championship side this season. Whether that's in that top 6 or not, I just think there just aren't that many teams that are scaring us.
Yeah, I mean, someone pointed out earlier on in the chat, Tom, that Liam said she can always get married again. We might never make it to Wembley again, though. Like she could get divorced and then remarried if that's what needs to happen for us to enjoy the playoffs with you there, Tom. Charlie, Lloyd Jones fanboy, says that as long as we finish 21st or above, I'll be happy. But I think we're more likely to land top 6 than bottom 3. That's definitely where I feel. But yeah, it's one of the things I like, and I know this is so I mentioned the other day, like, Charlie's vlogs have been brilliant this season, but there was a video, like, Lloyd Jones's girlfriend is famous, so she's on Instagram and stuff, and someone noticed I think Tash noticed in the back of her story where she was showing off some clothes or something, that Lloyd Jones was sat on the sofa watching Charlie's blog, which is obviously great for Charlie and brilliant, but also, isn't it great that there's such a good connection with the fans and the players at this moment in time as well, Joe? Like, things like that, I think that's a real bond, and I think that's really important. So actually, that was a really nice little moment when I saw that. So things like that, it just adds to that feel-good factor that we've been talking about, and that's why there's 20,000 people there, because they feel connected to this squad of players at this moment in time.
Yeah, and you see a team that's honest, hard-working, desperate to win as we are, and a manager who absolutely loves the club, loves winning, loves being involved, then you can't help but, sorry, Harry's just joining us very briefly, you can't help but get super excited about the direction that's going in, and you are going to massively buy into that feeling, and the fact that they're watching vlogs back, and catching up also on the highlights, and just in drinking in the way that we're loving this season as well. It just creates such a unity, and I think when everyone is on the same page and everyone is pulling in the same direction, you can just achieve some absolutely remarkable things. You can go a long way on momentum and just a little bit of desire, and we've seen it the other way. Like, we've seen when it's been really tough under the likes of Apples and everyone's really struggling, how seasons can capitulate. But when you've got this momentum, this feeling, and this sort of happiness around the club, you can't help but dream, and it will carry people through. And from the player side, I remember a couple of seasons ago when we were at the Player of the Year dinner doing a Charlton live show, and no player wanted to say hello, absolutely looking in the other direction. And this year, you sort of feel that we're going to be sort of forcing people to not come and sit down with us so that we can end the show. So it's amazing how far the club has gone, and that's credit to Jones. It's credit to the owners, but it's credit to the players and fans as well, because everyone is fully buying into the vision of where we're going.
Yeah, no, definitely. So let's this is an interesting debating point. So let's say we get to January, Lewis, and we're pretty much around where we are now. So we're sitting in sixth at the moment, which is excellent. So it begs the question about do we push the button to really go for it? But also, I mean, the question is, what does that actually mean? So James is asking, well, it's early, but based on where we are, which areas would you strengthen during January as well? But I also think the way that the squad is built, I mean, obviously James Bree is one big part of that, and that would be certainly an area I'd like us to try and push the button. But also, you don't want to upset the apple cart too much. Like you want to try and build a whole new squad in January and go for it and sort of upset the balance. And I'm sure Nathan will be very aware of that as well. But what would be the position in January if we're where we are now and playing as well as we are now?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because I think you're right. Jones is quite loyal, and he doesn't like shuffling his pack a huge amount, does he? So adding a load of new personnel at January and rolling the dice might not be his style. And I do think that we have the options there. I mean, look, people will say the strikers is somewhere we can strengthen, but I personally think that it will come good and it will click. Like, I think Kelman's getting into games more. Tanto is a threat of his own way. TC has his own game. Leeburn got his goal against Ipswich. We've got Godden to come back in. Like, when you look around the team, there's just so many standout performers and areas. And I just don't really know where we'd need it. And literally, for me, the only button we got to press is the James Bree one. But, it'll be interesting to see if we are around it. But, I mean, look, there's a massive financial commitment to strengthen in the Championship, especially in January. It's always the more difficult time to buy players, isn't it? It is that desperation window where the fees are inflated and it's difficult for everyone to be after the same sort of player, because anyone that's got a chance of hitting the top six in the Championship is going to be putting a bid in or chancing their arm on some of these players that are available that are going to make a clear difference and push you to the top six. And I just think, would we compete in that market? I think we've probably demonstrated that we're not going to be silly with money over the last couple of seasons. I mean, we spent well in the summer, but it was fairly sensible. I don't think we're the sort of club that's going to go jump the gun in January if we're in and around it. I think Jones will have faith in what he's got and will only strengthen if absolutely necessary. But it'd be interesting to see. I mean, I think Sam there's just put in about a left wing back. We probably do need some cover there for Josh and for Amari being pushed there at the moment would be an area. But yeah, for me, you get James Bree in and you strengthen maybe other areas in terms of depth, because I think if you lose Lloydie or Sonny Carey, there's a couple of players in there that have just been standout, and if you lose them, it'd be a massive impact. But I do think there are players in our squad already that can come in and do a job.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a few people saying, like Jay saying, I honestly think looking at signing Bree as a must, a backup for Jones and another central attacking midfielder, all for security. As Tommy says, a lot of it will depend on injuries for Kuda. Obviously, we've been linked with him. That doesn't seem to be going away, that noise, does it? Although, who knows what will happen there. As Paul points out, the Nathan's teams get better. We've not reached the ceiling with what we've had. Mark says, I think we're missing a mobile 6 foot plus striker up top. Carlton Morris would have been ideal, but someone like him is going to wrestle defenders and create a chance out of nothing. Bree though as well. Isaac pointing out Southampton might want them. We don't know what's going to be the situation with Will Steels under a bit of pressure. Early days yet, of course. When a club's just got relegated and then they have a mixed start to the next season, the manager's always going to be under pressure, and there's been a little bit of turn with the supporters there. And Doctor says I wouldn't change much more to come from TC and Leeburn, and next year will only be better as well. Because I guess that's the other thing. Like even if this year isn't a promotion year, Tom, which is if it's not, I don't think anyone's going to be calling for the manager's head because we've not got promoted from the Championship at first time of asking. I feel like there's a lot of growth in this squad, even in the players that are here as well. I mean, we've got a couple more experienced players who perhaps have been about. They've still got a couple of years in it. No one's bowling about. Maybe other than Matty Godden, who obviously hasn't played yet, towards the latter end of their careers. But Matty's not exactly in the retirement home just yet. He's still got some time. But most of our squad, as we said at the time in the summer, there's quite a nice mixture of youth players who have got points to prove. The likes of Apter's probably only going to get better, isn't he? Even Carey's got a fair bit of time on his side to continue improving at the level above. So it does feel like, even if it's not this year where we make a surprise dart for promotion, then next year we'd arguably be even better, wouldn't we?
I think so. Yeah, I think that if you if you don't go up this year, you perhaps lose a little bit of momentum. That's the only thing that we've been talking about that we've got at the moment that's a strength that maybe drops off a little bit. And maybe there's a little bit of inertia sets in because this team have just been on the up and up and up, and suddenly it's like, okay, we've got to just settle where we are. But I don't think Jones is a manager that really lets something like inertia sit in, and he'll make sure that we still put all the effort in for the start of next season. Of course, you then want to freshen things up a little bit, and I'm sure there would be churn in the summer either way. But I think the risk, back to your question about the January, if we're still there, the risk of starting to build a squad that's probably Premier League ready is you've got to spend so much money, and then if you don't go up, you're screwed. And if you're investing in players that maybe aren't quite Premier League ready, and then you go up, you've then still got to invest again in the summer anyway. So it's kind of like, unless there's injuries, really, I'm not sure that there's that much reason to change it, particularly as someone was saying, I can't remember if it's someone on the pod or in the chat, about the fact that, look, Jones doesn't like to rotate. So I think the one area where we probably do need a bit of backup is Coventry, and we saw that at the weekend. I, like Lewis and Joe have been saying, I think the strikers, I'm happy with them. They're going to come good. I'm convinced of it. So I just don't see why you chuck someone else there. I do think you've got someone like Harvey Nibbs that can slot in behind Carey anyway, and I do think he'll improve. So again, not worried there. So maybe a winger, maybe a centre-back, but ultimately that Coventry is the big thing that's missing. So yeah, unless you're going into January with significant injuries, I think you're looking at maybe one or two and a loan or two. I know he doesn't like them, but I think that then sees us through. And if it's enough to get us up, brilliant. Then you splash your money in the summer when you know what league you're in. And if it's not, well, you've bolstered your squad a little bit for another go next year. So yeah, I think this squad has got a lot of growth in it. I hope it's this season, of course. And if it's not, then you just build, and you build slowly, because as I say, we never expected to be where we are this early on in this season.
Excellent stuff. Right, we're going to have a quick break. Our Swansea guest is running slightly late, so we might have a little bit more chat. But Joe's just put an interesting stat in our little private chat that you can talk about after we come back. We'll be back in 30 seconds or so.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders, such as Barratt Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello, fellow addicts. I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the River. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview. Delighted to say that our Swansea guest has arrived now, actually, so we can join. We can have Luke from Swanscast join us. How you doing, Luke? You okay?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me on. Sorry for the delay. Everything was a bit of a rush. That's all. So yeah, I'm here now.
No worries. No, you don't have to apologise to us. We're really grateful to have you on. Looking forward to Saturday's game with you guys. First time, obviously, we've met in a few seasons. Let's dive straight into it. Normally, whenever I speak to an opposition fan, they hate Nathan Jones for some reason or another. But you've got a pretty good reason. So do you want to just tell us a little bit about how Swansea view Nathan Jones?
That's just not just the Swansea thing then. So, but no, yeah, we really don't like him. So Cardiff links, of course. I think he's from Cardiff, isn't he? So that's the main reason. And then every time he beats us in the past, he celebrates as if he's won the Champions League, probably because of those links. Which obviously riles up the Swansea fans the wrong way. And there were links of bringing him in at certain points over the last couple of years. And we brought in a couple of personnel that came from Luton from around his time when he was at Luton. There seemed to be this big push of bringing in personnel from that club. I think the sporting director was from there, so he was bringing in people that he knew. And the outrage of the rumour even, nothing came of it, obviously, but the outrage of the rumour just was crazy. And our sporting director was seen watching one of our home matches in the box with Nathan Jones, and that really went down like a lead balloon, as you can imagine. And he's no longer with us. So, yeah.
That seems a little bit harsh. He only sat next to him.
It sounds
It's
like
not
they
the
bumped him
reason
off,
that
doesn't
he's.
it?
It's not the reason, but it was just this big narrative. There's a big clash of style of play as well from what Swansea fans want to see, and perhaps what Nathan Jones has delivered in the past. So there was a bit of a concern that all of the personnel being brought in from Luton were changing the club into that direction. If you can imagine the sort of style they played when they got promoted to the Premier League, which was Nathan Jones, I guess, at his best sort of thing. And the fans just really did not want that. And then the Cardiff side just doubles that even more. So, yeah, he's not very popular at all.
Fair enough. You referenced the style of play, so I suppose that leads on to the next question. What are we to expect from yourselves on Saturday? So how do you go about the sort of building up your attacks and what you like defensively as well?
So, funnily enough, I just mentioned the style of play and the criticism of other things, but we're not quite the Swansea of like old, where passing all the time, keeping the ball as a priority. We do still do that, but it's not as much as it perhaps was before. So currently, our current manager has a little bit of criticism from certain parts of the fan base for that reason. But personally, I do think we need to adapt. I don't think we're quite clicked yet. So what you'll probably see from us is we will try to play the ball on the floor. We will try and keep it decently. I would imagine against a team like yourselves, maybe that will look a bit more than it has done in other games for us. And we're a bit perhaps slow and patient and trying to break teams down. We do try and be a bit more direct than we have done in previous years when we go out wide and try to create our opportunities from out there. But unfortunately, this season, that's kind of our issue. I think we're one of the top teams in the league for getting into the final third, but then one of the bottom teams in the league for actually creating an opportunity from those areas. So it's that final pass, getting into the box. I think we're like second from bottom on touches in the opposition area across the league. So something's not clicking quite up front, but we're quite clinical. So when a chance is created, one of our strikers in particular, for Potnick, has been really good at burying the opportunities. And I think we've relied on that a little bit this season. Obviously, we can't perhaps all the way to the end, but we have got players that are capable of scoring from a chance that you think maybe not. If you watch the highlights of the game we just played against Norwich, you'll see exactly what I mean. He scored 2 goals from absolutely nothing, and we didn't create a single other chance basically for the entire game. So you might think that we haven't really done that much, but it's still quite a tight game because we've tended to kept teams quite close. So even when we lose, it's a small margin. We seem to be in matches all the time. We just don't seem to be able to assert any authority. But also, I don't know, I think we're flattering to deceive a little bit. There's just more to come from the team. I know I've kind of ranted on a little bit there from the original question, but it's hard to describe really what our actual game plan is at the moment, because I think some of the strengths we saw earlier in the season were like pressing and stuff, but they've drifted a little bit recently. But also we played Man City last night and he changed the formation for the first time this season. So I could be saying all this and he might continue in that direction, which, that would be typical.
For Swansea this year, Luke, what's success? You've obviously been here a little while, but you've had, you've flirted with the Premier League. You've had seasons up there, a bit like we have, obviously more recently than us. So, yeah, I think you were mid-table last season, weren't you? What are you looking at this year? And obviously, Sheehan being a relatively new manager, I think this is his first full-time job, isn't it? So, yeah, are you looking to stabilise mid-table? Are you happy with that again, or are you thinking pushing for playoffs? And if not, then he might be shown the door.
I don't think he'll be shown the door if we don't get playoffs. I think for me, if you ask, what I said at the beginning of the season, we finished 11th last year in what was a bit of a bad season for us. 11th probably doesn't look so much like it's a bad season, but after January, we had a horrendous time and Luke Williams got sacked and we looked like we were heading into a relegation fight. Sheehan really changed the tide and the narrative of the end of the season and pulled us back into a positive position, finishing in 11th, but it doesn't tell the full story of the year. So what I would like to see is that 11th place being the minimum. If it's 11th, 10th again, that's fine. But to have stability and consistency through the season to get there, rather than, we started okay, then a massive dip where you worry and you have to change things and then bring a new manager in again, and then you start climbing. I'd rather be consistent maybe it's a bit up and down all year, but get to that same result so you can build on it then going forward. I do think, based on the investment in the summer, which is the best investment I can remember since we've been in the Championship after that relegation that you've mentioned, some of the expectations probably risen a bit among the fans. But there was a lot of newness, a lot of quality, don't get me wrong, and we've actually got depth in positions now, which we haven't had for years, really. I think every position has got a second player that's capable of playing in the first team. I can't remember the last time I've said that for the team. So I think people are expecting perhaps to be doing a bit better than we've shown in recent weeks, but it's a long season. I think 11th needs to be the minimum. I do think there's an outside chance of a playoff push. I think the way the Championship is shaping up the season as well, anyone that kind of takes it by the scruff of the neck, as perhaps you've seen yourselves, can perhaps have a chance of getting there. And there's no reason why we can't with the money we put in, with the players we brought in. It's just whether we can get it working and get the style clicking the way it needs to and sort out some of the problems, like I've mentioned, with our creativity. And to be honest, recently our defence hasn't been the best either. But I think it's still a transition. But I just want to see stability and be able to push on then afterwards.
Hi, Luke. You say you're going through a bit of a transition at the moment. Who do Charlton fans need to look out for Saturday? So who have been your standout performers so far this season? Who's going to be the difference maker for you if you are to get a result at the Valley on Saturday?
Well, the one I've already mentioned, Zan Vopotnik, he's going to start up front, I would imagine. And maybe he was going to leave in the summer. We were looking at bringing in a striker, spending big money on him. He didn't seem happy with that situation. He got brought in last year on a free from Bordeaux after they went into administration and had a bit of a year where he couldn't quite hit the ground running. He couldn't get a run of games in the team, but he still scored, I think it was 7 goals. So it was okay. A lot of fans thought this season he would actually kick on, and he found himself out of the team at the start of the year. Eventually, when he got given a chance, he scored in 5 consecutive games in all competitions, 6 if you include international, and kind of made his point that he's definitely got a part to play in this team, that perhaps we didn't need that at the striker, which we have ended up getting in Adam Ida, who isn't starting league games now because of the form of Vipotnik, who has, we've gone and spent £8 million on a striker who can't get in the team because the one already here took issue with the fact that we went and got him, essentially. But again, if you want to see his quality, I actually said on one of these previews last week before we played Norwich that he's not a striker that creates his own opportunities, but he's quite clinical and getting on the end of chances. Well, he completely made me eat my words. If you go and watch those 2 goals he scored against Norwich, goals from absolutely nothing. He's got a hell of a strike on him, like one of the most powerful strikers of a ball that I've seen. And he really knows how to find the back of the net when he gets a sniff of it. The other one to really watch out for would be Ethan Galbraith, but I'm not 100% sure he's going to start, and that's mainly because after watching the game last night, so many of the team, you're probably glad to hear, were on their legs. Like they were so tired at the end of that game, which is good because they put in all the effort in the world against the top team in Man City. But then I left the ground thinking, not quite sure how they're going to manage to do another 90 minutes on Saturday. But Ethan Galbraith in midfield, you might have played against him last year with Leyton Orient. Might have been a right back when you played him then, because I know he played a lot of the season at right back for them. But he's in centre midfield for us, and he's just running the show. Like he put in again a top performance against Man City yesterday, standing out, making headlines. I know on the international stage he's done the same, showing up Wirtz for Germany when they played Northern Ireland. So he's one of those players that we've signed for a bit of a bargain price. And I'd be surprised if he's still here next summer, the way it's going, the way the headlines are sort of approaching his performances. But he's so good on the ball. He's got really good ball control. He very rarely gives it up. And, he could be 3 players pressing him and putting him under some pressure, and he still manages to find a way out. It's really neat and tidy. He's come from the Man United youth system he has, and I think he's dropped down to try and progress up, and he's finally finding his feet. And I think he will be making bigger clubs sit up and take note. So they're the 2 I would really look out for. There's probably a third I could mention. If we play a normal 4-3-3 formation, he'd be left back, but he might play wing back if we do switch to 5, and that's Josh Tyman from the left. So he's predominantly our chance creator. A lot of our opportunities come from the left and from him and his crossing abilities, the best crosser of the ball in the squad. And he creates so many opportunities with his left foot, just putting it on a plate for the striker or whoever's in the box, and from set pieces as well. So when he doesn't necessarily hit the performance that you need is when we perhaps struggle to create chances. But that's an outlet we always use, so probably one that's looked to be nullified as well by the opposition to minimise what we can do going forwards.
Excellent stuff. Cheers for that, Luke. Yeah, as a few people have mentioned, we were quite heavily linked with Galbraith during the summer. I'm fairly confident we put bids in for him as well. So we will be looking to punish him on Saturday for making the wrong decision. But there we go, Luke. Thanks for your time today. Right. Really fascinating stuff. I shall speak to you in about 10 minutes on your show.
Yeah, no problem. Whenever you're ready.
There we go. That's Luke. That's Luke from Swans Cast, looking ahead to the game. From a Swansea point of view, let's hear from the man he loves to hate. It's Nathan Jones, the Addicts boss. He looked ahead to Saturday's game with Terry earlier on today.
To the strikers and the goal tallies, etc., etc. We know individually that our strikers have got goals in them. Yes, we're missing Madigan, and yes, we're up a level. But when it comes to strikers and goals, do you do it individually, or is it important to? Because I know you tried different partnerships up front. Is it about setting a partnership rather than just individual goals?
No, I think we've had pretty settled partnerships. It's just we demand from them. They're not just strikers to stand in the 18-yard box and to tap the ball in the net. We ask loads of stuff around them. Are they getting chances? Yeah, they get chances game in, game out. All of them. See Tyrese got chances the other day in terms of that. Then when we came on, our strikers get chances. But for us, it's about. It doesn't matter who scores, but we expect a level of performance in and out of possession from each player. And then whoever scores, whoever gets the opportunity from what we do and from our structure, then we don't care. I would like to have 4 of the top strikers in the division, all top scorers. It means that they're all scoring. But look, as long as we score one more than the opposition in games, that's all I'm really concerned about.
It's been a tough week in terms of games and travel, and we've got another 3-game week coming up. How's the squad heading into the coming week? And fans will want to know, of course, about the progress of Matty Godden as well.
Yeah, Matty Godden's a lot closer. We are looking at him. He's now far more mobile, doing the things we want him to do. He's had 2 weeks now of fitness work in terms of stuff, so he is a lot closer, which is really good. That'll give us another option, another headache, so we're looking forward to that. Josh is the only one then that's a little way off.
Mm-hmm. Swansea at the Valley on Saturday. They've been they are an established Championship side, have been for the past 7 seasons, and in the Premier League for the 7 seasons before that, I think it was. They've had a fairly sort of even start, 4-4-4. Don't score many, don't concede many, so obviously you're expecting a tough game, and you're up against somebody you know very well as a player and a coach. Yeah,
look, in terms of Swansea, they've been around a long time, as you said, at this level and higher, so they're going to be tough opposition, but it's another tough game. It's the Championship. As for Alan Sheeran, the manager, look, he was an excellent captain for me. He was a coach for me. He was set play coach for me. So he's someone I know very, very well, and I think it's a tough league to have your first job in management, and I think he's done excellent.
There we go. That's Nathan looking ahead to Saturday's game with Swansea. As he mentioned, they're against a man he knows very well, Alan Sheeran, from their time together at Luton Town. It's the same question every single week, Joe, but front two, probably the big talking point. Who's it going to be this time? As Isaac says, usual question. Who's the top two? Who's the front two? Who are we going for this week? What's the partnership that you'd like to see?
Well, I'm not that fussed really, as long as it's big man, little man. That's my preference. I feel like it's good to have a physical presence and a quicker presence, but if they're going to play it around at the back, then I imagine we're going to go with TC and Kelman to just harry and harass them for 60 minutes until they're absolutely sick of the sight of us nicking the ball out of their pockets and running away with it. So I think that's where it'll be. I just prefer the chemistry and the dynamics of having a physical aerial threat and a sort of more nippy, diminutive player. But he's gonna pick the players that he thinks are absolute best for the opposition at hand. And to be honest, I think that whoever you start, they're all doing enough to sort of warrant opportunities. So you can't really complain with whichever combination he decides to put out on the day.
Yeah, there's a few people people putting in their opinions. Southern Comfort said, I prefer Lee Byrne playing with Kelman, but I am a big fan of TC, so a bit torn as to who we start with. Alex says, anything other than Kelman and TC, and I'm not going. He says Kelman and TC is easily the best front two. The doctor says big man, it could be Lee Byrne or Tanto, and little man, TC or Kelman, either would be fine. So really, it's pretty much anyone. I suspect, Lewis, it will go Kelman TC, because that has been the partnership that started the most this season. So that's what I'm assuming it's going to be. TC, I honestly thought he was going to get off the mark on Saturday. He had those chances in the opening stages. He was unlucky with that save early on as well. I really feel like he's getting closer. It's a bizarre conversation that we keep having, keep winning games, and every week we're still saying, well, the strikers aren't scoring. But if we're winning games, does it really matter? I think it's quite clear. Like I saw someone on the forum pointed out that Berry had a few more shots than Coleman when he came on Saturday at Hull. But the way we play, the chances tend to fall to Carey, Berry, whoever in behind the strikers. That seems to be how it works. It's not like Kelman hasn't had many. TC's had a few chances, but our midfielder, our number 10, gets more chances than a striker. It feels like on paper. It'd be interesting to see if statistically that's backed up by what the eye test from what it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it just seems to be the way we press and how aggressive we want to be and front-footed that Kelman and TC bring that. I think they drag defenders, and a team like Swansea, as Joe said, if they're going to play around with the ball, keep hold of the ball, possession-based football, they're going to hate that press. And I just think that Kelman and TC bring that a bit more aggressively. I think Tanto brings it as well, not so much Miles, but I think when you have I'm not always the biggest fan of switching it on the 60th minute, which is what we seem to do, because I always feel like Kelman's going to score and then we take him off. But I think when you've got that for a majority of the game and you're being stretched by those two players, and then you bring on like a Tanto and a Lee Byrne, I mean, it's going to be defender's worst nightmare. And I think we're just in a bit of a luxury position where it feels like we can mix up those strikers in any order, either in a little and large or with Kelman and TC for the stretch, and you're going to get something out of it. The only one I'm not overly convinced on is Tanto and Lee Byrne, so I don't think that quite works. But I mean, what a position to be in, because I think that any of those lineups effectively can give us something up top. And I'm feeling a Kelman goal this weekend. I really feel like he's going to get off the mark on Saturday, and I hope he does, because I think that he has played really well in the last couple of weeks. I think he deserves it, and I think the fans are starting to buy into him a bit more now. There was that pressure at the start, maybe because of the fee, and it felt like he was getting a bit of a rough ride of it. But I think people are seeing what he brings now, and fingers crossed he gets off the mark.
Yeah, a couple of people saying that they'd like to see Apter get another chance this weekend. Mark saying, up top, we live on those second balls, knockdowns as well. She says he is why Carey has scored so many. Getting the ball up top and then runners coming in from midfield feels like something that's worked for us quite a bit this season. And then Robert sets us up quite nicely for our last talking point. Says immediate light show when Coleman scores. So excitement. Funnily enough, I said it. I think deep down we knew it was coming because someone had seen a light show being filmed at the Valley a few weeks ago. But when everyone was getting their knickers in the twist about the big screen, and then Gavin was in the chat, I said, I'll do a light show next, because I think I knew that was happening. Because normally that would get 10 minutes out of it if we need to, but we only need to talk about it for 2 minutes, Tom. But I can tell you're excited. I can tell you're really looking forward to it. Or it's going to ruin your season. You're going to refuse to watch football ever again. Which way are you going?
That's the only reason I'm going. I haven't seen enough from the football this year. There's not been enough goals from the strikers, so I was prepared to jack it in. But then they announced the light show, and I thought, fine, I'll give them one more go. So you probably won't see me Saturday, but Tuesday night games, I'll be there week in, week out. I couldn't care less, really. Do I like them? No. Do I think they had anything? Not really. Am I going to kick up a fuss? No. Do what you want. Do what you want. As long as we win, I couldn't give a monkeys. But as I said on Twitter last night, they've not left it to an international break to announce it this time. There's plenty of Carabao Cup action. They just thought, I'll just slip this in unannounced and see if we get away with it. But still got pounced on. So, no, I don't really care. If I had the choice, I wouldn't do it. But I'm not gonna go and stand outside or not turn up just because they're doing a bit of a light show. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, Southern Comfort are saying he hasn't seen anything about it. So basically, I mean, they haven't officially announced it. What they've done is they've put out a video of all the lights flashing, saying this time next week. So I think people have sort of put two and two together. It's funny. So like when Millwall got new floodlights, I think it might have been this season or last season, it was announced that as part of the contract, they have to have a light show. And obviously, Millwall fans so insecure about everything. They were like, "Oh, it's embarrassing," blah blah blah, and like. I'm sure we'll get the same reaction from some of our fans. But if you don't like it, just close your eyes for a few seconds. It will happen. It will go, and then watch the Addicts win again, because that's what we've been doing all season. So let's look forward to that. As someone else said, said that if Kelman scores on Saturday, they're going to start the Blackie fireworks show a little bit earlier. That'd be class as well. Make sure you check your trains on Saturday, because there's some train issues. I haven't fully looked because I don't use the trains to get to home games, but have a look just to make sure you know how you get into the ground on Saturday, because there's some issues or something or other. So make sure you have a look for that. Right, we've run out of time on this week's big match preview. Thanks to all of you who've joined us in the chat this evening. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Don't forget, check out our merch store, charltonlive.etsy.com, for your mugs in time for Christmas. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And subscribe to wherever you see the podcast as well. Our subscription numbers are going up nicely. Continue doing that so you never miss another show. Joe, Lewis, and Tom, have been an absolute pleasure as always.
Cheers, everyone.
Have a pint of that.
There we go. Congratulations on being nominated the best looking Charlton Live panel of all time by someone in the chat early on in the show. Right, I'm Louis Mendes. This has been Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. Don't forget, we'll be back here on YouTube on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. to look back at whatever happens against Swansea, and then ahead to Tuesday's light show and the game against West Brom as well. We'll see you then.